Hi everyone, Tori here. Today I'm sharing a new thing with you that I want to try to do on my YouTube channel. I want to do some Scrap Your Scraps videos where I just show you some ways to use up your scrap supplies. I have a lot of scrap paper in my stash and I just save them from little pieces I cut off and everything, and I can't throw away anything. So today I'm going to share with you some ideas for how to use up your scraps, and the ideas I'm sharing today are using these three different tools. I'm using two punches, one that's a hexagon and one that's a circle, and those come from, I think, Martha Stewart, and then one die cut thin wafer die from Kelly Purkey. And I'm going to use these three things to make three different layouts. Now, one of the layouts is already done, and then the other two I'm going to make with you. So I'm just going to show you sort of what the idea is. What I love to do is take all my scraps and die cut or punch out a ton of shapes. So this first layout, which is sort of my inspiration for this movie, I took this Kelly Purkey die and I cut out a ton of hearts out of my scraps, and then I glued them all over the page, and then I added my photo. The other two layouts I'm going to share today are sort of similar, except for I used punches for this one. So the first layout, I already got started. I punched out a ton of circles, and I think these are 1-inch circles, and I stuck them all over the page. And the other one, I used the hexagon one, and I punched out a bunch of hexagons in black and white. And I just put them all over the page and glued them down. With the circles and the hexagon, I sort of tried to keep it consistent. With the hearts, I overlapped them. So either option is a great way, and this is an amazing way to use up a bunch of your scraps in your stash. So I am going to be sharing two layouts with you today. I'm going to start with this hexagon one and this photo of myself out in wintertime. It's really cold here in Canada, so I have to get bundled up, and I took this selfie of myself, which I thought was sort of cute, and I wanted to make it into a layout. So while I'm not showing you necessarily how to punch out all the circles and adhere them, because I think that's sort of self-explanatory, what I am going to share is how I take this crazy busy background and turn it into a really beautiful layout. Sometimes I think we can want to do really crazy busy layouts like this, but then feel overwhelmed because we're like, how do we still make the photo stand out? And I really think it's important for my photos to stand out, so even though I enjoy doing crazy backgrounds, I still want my photo and my title to be the center of attention. So I'm going to start here, and I'm going to layer my photo with some white cardstock. So at first I thought I might try to use some more black and white paper behind my photo, but it was ending up looking sort of busy. So I'm just going to stick with the white. And that's a great tip for you. If you have a busy background, layering your photo on top of a solid cardstock, a white or a black, is a great way to sort of draw your attention in and stop it from being too busy. And I'm just going to use my scissors to cut around this. I don't mind if it's not perfect, because some of the other things I'm going to layer on here are also going to add to that sort of not perfect look. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to punch out a bunch of snowflakes, and I'm actually going to use those all over the page. And I thought snowflakes would be fun since this is a winter theme layout, and I thought it would be fun to use up the rest of that white cardstock, which I had already sort of cut up and used. Now this white snowflake punch does come from, I know I bought it at Michael's. This one is definitely Martha Stewart. And it's just a white snowflake punch. I don't know what it's called exactly, but I got it at Michael's. And I'm going to adhere a ton of snowflakes all over the page and sort of add with that winter theme. Now before I adhere those, I feel like the photo needs some more layering behind it. So I end up grabbing a ton of my gassine bags, and I have these just from old Studio Calico kits and other kits and things like that. And I'm going to grab a whole bunch of sizes and just cut them apart, and I'm going to use those to layer behind my photo. And this is a really great way to use up some more stuff that you might have in your stash, which is just sitting there. And I think it's really important for me to use up my stash, because then when I get a new kit, I don't feel so bad getting a new kit. And my new Studio Calico kit is supposed to come tomorrow, which I'm super excited about. So I just wanted to make some layouts where I'm using up some of my stash, and then where I can fill my stash with brand new supplies that I get tomorrow. Now I am just using my hot glue gun here just because it also adds some extra dimension and layering, because if you don't push it down all the way, it sort of hardens and it adds some layers of dimension. And I'm not really being careful about how I stick down these bags. I'm planning on trimming them up a little bit later, but the point for me was just to layer them all up in different directions and have lots and lots of layers behind the photo. And I think all of these layers will also add some attention to the photo, so that when you're looking at this crazy busy background, your eyes will be drawn into the photo and what the important story is here. So some other things that I'm going to do is I'm going to grab some more pattern paper, and I'm just going to layer that behind there as well, just to add some more of that grayish tone to the page. And also I think it's really cool when you have pattern paper layered underneath these glassine bags, because it's like a little peekaboo. Now if you don't have these bags, you could always use vellum too, and I have used vellum as well. I just like using whatever I have. So I don't currently have any vellum in my stash, so I'm just using what I have and I'm using it up. And I think often people are like, well, why do you want to use things up? Well, I just really enjoy the process of finishing packages. I don't know, it's sort of therapeutic for me. Now, if you're wondering where this paper comes from, it actually comes from the Maggie Holmes Crepe Paper Flea Market paper pad. And I'm just grabbing a couple pieces, and I could have grabbed more of my scraps here, but I wanted whole square pieces because I wanted to do a lot of layering. But again, I'm just using up things from my stash, and I don't really have a lot of pages left in that 6x6 paper pad. And then these other two papers that I'm using, the one with the diagonal stripe, and then there's one with a thin line on it, those came from past Studio Calico kits. And I think they were the only papers I had left from some of those kits. I'm not really a big black and white gray person, although I am just using that on this layout. But I originally started this layout thinking maybe I'll just go for another monochromatic page, because the last time I did a monochromatic page, I loved the way that it had turned out. So I was thinking I would do that again. Although you'll see at the end that I sort of mixed that up because I really wanted to use some color. But it'll start monochromatic and then I'll add the color, just because it's sort of an obsession of mine to add more color. So what you just saw me doing was scrunching up the pages and the bag just to add some extra dimension around the photo. And now I'm just adhering those snowflakes that I had punched out, and I'm adding them all over the page. I didn't really have any system or thought behind this. I just sort of layered them, some on the hexagons, some in the creases between hexagons, and then also around the photo. And now I'm just going to top it off with some final embellishments, and I'm going to start with some silver sequins. And I don't have black or white sequins, but I thought these silver ones were sort of staying in that same color vein with black, white, and gray. And again, no real rhyme or reason, just adhering those all over the entire page. So I skipped ahead a little bit so you didn't have to watch that for a really long time. And now I'm thinking I want to use some of my buttons, and I love buttons. So I pour them all out on the desk trying to figure out which buttons to use. And I was trying to find some black ones, but the only ones I could find were like navy blue or a dark purple. So then I thought I might use some white ones, except for these white ones aren't really white. They have a color on the back, and I was just flipping them over. And I'm going to play with that for a little while until I realize that what I really am missing now as I look at all these beautiful buttons on the table is some color. So I decide that I'm going to just give up my monochromatic theme here and add some purple buttons, just because it makes me exceedingly happy. And when it comes to scrapbooking with me, I just want to do what makes me happy and make pages that I love. and adding purple buttons all over the entire page is something that I love, and it's making me happy, so I'm doing it. And I don't think it really draws anything away from the photo. I think it's just adding a little extra something to the background. So the background I keep pretty simple. I mean, it does have sequins and then those snowflakes that I punched out, as well as purple buttons. But other than that, the page is pretty simple. I don't really add anything else other than some enamel dots, which you'll see in just a moment, and the title. And I am planning on doing the enamel dots also in that purple color and sort of spreading those out around the page as well. So the enamel dots I'm using are these light purple color, and they come from Your Next Embelly YNS gumdrops. And I think YNS stands for Your Next Stamp. It's a stamp booking company in Ontario, I think. And I just got these for free, so I was just using those, and I love the way that they turn out on the page. They look really nice. Just adding a little extra of that purple. And I think that the purple buttons and enamel dots make me happy, and I think they just top the page off a lot. Now I had this hello that I had die cut using a Studio Calico thin wafer die and my Cuddle Bug, and I'm going to use some glossy accents, and that's going to be my title, hello. And I'm just going to finish off the page with the date stamp and then a little tiny bit of journaling. So I am using a date stamp and some black StazOn ink, and I'm going to stamp the date on here, which was, I believe, December 10th, 2013. And this date stamp comes from Dear Lizzie. Now, unfortunately, I just bought the StazOn ink, and it was really juicy, and so it got all smushed at the top. But I figure I'm just going to leave it and just be happy with it. I feel like all those little tiny things just make it, and they're part of the story. And then I'm going to add some journaling with a black Micron pen. And this Micron pen is 0.8, I think. Oh, no, 0.5. And I use that on just one of the hexagons. And that's it. That page is done, and I'm going to move on to the second page where I'm going to use some of my scraps to scrap here. So this page is a photo of my sister and I, a selfie that we took. This is my little sister, Courtney. She's really sweet, and you've probably heard me talk about her in other videos, so I won't go into it a lot, but I just love her. She's a good kid. And we were just taking this photo together, I think at a restaurant, and I just love it. I just love that we're all squished up in the frame and hugging on each other, and I wanted to use it on this page, and I feel like it fits really well with all those circles that I punched out of the Maggie Holmes Flea Market 6x6 paper pad. And I'm going to layer that on top of this craft with gold polka dot envelope, and my journaling is actually going to go within that envelope. I received, I think, 6 of those craft envelopes in a Studio Calico kit a bunch of months ago. I can't remember which month it is. I'll try to link it up below. I'm not sure if it's still available, but you could probably find something similar or make one yourself out of craft paper. So I am going to also be using a ton of these Maggie Holmes open book die cut vellum shapes, which you're seeing me rifle through now, and they are so pretty. They're the perfect color, and they actually match perfectly with the 6x6 paper pad that I used for the back, which is interesting because they came from different collections. One is the flea market collection, and then one is the open book collection, but they are the perfect color and they go well together. I really love all of Maggie Holmes' stuff for crepe paper. I think she is such an amazing designer, and I love using her supplies. I don't have everything that she's made, but every time I'm able to get a couple things, it just makes me so happy. So I'm just pulling out a whole bunch of different shapes and things that I think I can use on here, and I'm just going to begin layering them in sort of 2 clusters. I'm going to cluster one in the top left hand corner, and then I'm going to make a cluster in the bottom right hand corner. And I'm also going to be using one of those vellum shapes for the title, and that is the one that says I treasure you. Now I am using a mixture of adhesives here. I'm using my hot glue gun sometimes if it won't be seen, and then if it will be seen sort of as through the vellum, I'm using this permanent crafters tape tape runner. I just got at Walmart. I don't think it's, oh, it's AdTech, yeah. And I'm going to be using both of those sort of all over the place in my clusters. Now, I love making pages like this where I have a busy background that uses a bunch of pattern paper, and then I love using tons of embellishments. So my big tip for you is if you want to do something similar, you want to make a busy background, one of the things you can do so that it doesn't draw attention away from your photo is you can, one, use a really big photo like I've used here, and two, try to pick embellishments that match or coordinate really well with the background that you've chosen. So on the other layout, you notice that I use mostly embellishments that were silver, black, and white, except for the purple, which stood out, but I use mostly embellishments that match. And then on this one, I'm doing the same thing. The background has only a handful of colors, and all of the embellishments I'm using are sort of in that same color vein. And I think using a really big photo like I have used here is helping a lot too, because your attention is immediately drawn to that big photo and those faces in the middle, and I think your eyes are immediately drawn to our eyes and our faces there. And then out from there you sort of expand and look at all the color. I don't know. Maybe. I don't know if that's an actual thing, but it works for me, and it's something that I like to do on a lot of my pages. So I probably won't stop, but even if somebody tells me it's wrong. Not that anyone would. It's not like they're scrapbook police. But I guess one of you could leave a comment below that says, you don't know what you're doing. So try not to leave a comment like that. I would find that so sad. You guys leave the nicest comments though, by the way. I just want to take a moment while I'm doing that, and you can watch me continue to layer up all those embellishments. I just wanted to say I am so incredibly thankful for all the people who have subscribed to my channel. I have like almost 200 subscribers. It's not really 200, it's about 178. And I also have all these wonderful, beautiful comments that people keep leaving, and it means so much to me. I wish I could sum it up and tell you how much it means to me that you guys just love me so much, and that you care enough to like leave me a comment and tell me what you thought or what I could work on or what you think. It means a lot to me. I think one of the reasons it means a lot to me is because I don't really have a lot of crafty friends. I mean, some of my friends like doing crafts when I pull out my supplies, but they're not really scrapbookers or crafters, and my family is definitely not into it. They often refer to it as scrapbooking. Well, that's my brother who says that. So it means a lot to me to be able to like show my pages to people who appreciate it and will comment about my paper and my paper selection and my embellishments. It makes me happy. So thank you. So what I'm doing now is I learned from my mistake from the first layout where I stamped it and it was too juicy. So what I did is I just grabbed a piece of scratch paper, stamped it off, and then stamped it onto the vellum piece, and that works like perfect. Now one thing you want to be aware of if you're stamping on vellum is you want to use a dye that won't smudge really easily. So I'm using StazOn ink, and you also want to make sure that you are really careful when you put it down, otherwise it can smush when you put it down. And you want to make sure it's dry before you touch it. StazOn dries pretty quickly, so you don't have to worry about that, but if you're using a different type of ink, you might want to just be careful that you don't touch it while it's still wet. And now I'm just going to add some embroidery floss to that tag that I just stuck down with the date. I felt like it was missing something. So you're seeing to the left there, you're seeing my embroidery thread bucket. It's just a container that I got at the dollar store, or Dollarama if you're in Canada. and it just holds all of my different threads and everything. And I decided to use some black so that it was just consistent with the different colors that I have on the page, as well as I think black just draws your attention there as well, because there's not a ton of black on the page, but it works well because that tag also has black, and there's also a little tiny bit of black in that bottom right hand corner. So I just did a couple strands of that, and I'm going to stick that through the hole, and I'm going to trim off the excess, and then I'm going to just put a dab of hot glue gun behind that just so that it doesn't go flying anywhere. And when I was done that, I was feeling like the page was almost done, but there was this weird spot there where the tag wasn't lining up with the side of the photo, and I needed to find something to put there. So I found one more vellum piece from that Maggie Holmes Open Book die cut collection, and I cut it in half and stick one right underneath that tag, and I'm just going to stick the other piece on the other side. And I think that's it. I'm finished with the page. I just held it up to look at it, and then I realized that I had silver and pink sequins around the page but no gold, and I had added all these gold embellishments with the die cuts, so I wanted to just take some gold sequins and put those around the page. And I don't use a ton of them. I just stick them sort of spread out around the page, some on top of the embellishment clusters and then some just on the background. And I think I probably added about 10 or something like that. And then I'm also going to grab some of the silver sequins and the pink sequins that I had on that background and add them on top of the embellishment clusters, just so that the background and what I've done looks like it goes together well. And if you're wondering, those gold and silver sequins as well as the pink ones that I'm using, which you'll see me use in just a few moments here, they all come from Studio Calico. And I will try my very best to remember to link up all the products that I've used in the comment section below the video. If I can't find something, I don't link it up, but I really do try my best. And if you are ever wondering where I got something or what I've used, feel free to just leave a comment and I will try to fill you in. And I'm almost done here, and as you're watching me finish up, I just wanted to give you a couple last tips if you are planning on scrapping your scraps. First, just stick all your scraps in a convenient place and only keep the patterns that you really love. So anything that has a pattern that I don't really love a lot, I just throw it out. I don't need to keep it because I don't think I'll ever use it. But then the rest of them do get used, and they just get stuck in a bin, and then I try to use either punches or die cuts or rip up paper and use that. So for today, I've just used die cuts and punches, and I created these two layouts, which you're seeing here. And they don't have a ton of journaling, but there are places for journaling. Thanks everyone for joining me today. I hope you have a lovely day.